You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. In this week's episode of Carlie's Couch, we explore the motives behind our niceties. Are they actually nice, innocent, or are they controlling?
Questions that need answers.
Well, we gonna find them.
You gonna find them for yourself. But before we do that, let me introduce my friend Carlie Carpio to my left, and then myself, Alexia Clincy, aka Lextopia the God. We're glad that you're here with us this week. We're glad you've been with us 2024 and beyond.
Gang, gang.
Well, and past, whatever. Today, the question from the couch that we're going to talk about first is, what lyric have you been getting wrong this whole time and then realize, like, oh, shoot, that's not what they're saying? Go ahead.
First up, we have, she's 5'2", but I want you.
Debatable.
Yeah, I still don't know exactly.
I think he went ahead and was like, nah, y'all, that don't make sense. She's fine, too. Another one, I didn't get it at first until he put what they thought they were saying.
I might as well can sing it.
Go ahead.
I love it when your homies didn't pop up.
That's not crazy, because actually the way you said it is like,
okay. That
I love it when you call me Big Papa, but that's so obvious. I love it when you call me.
Look, I'm not even, because I know I've been saying stuff wrong, but I had to sing that one to get it, and I'm like, oh, okay, understandable.
The next one, are you Ellie? But they thought they were saying, are you Ellie? As in like Eleanor
like,
or something.
R-U-L-E.
Yeah, it's definitely the letters, are you Ellie?
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
See, the weird part about it is us singing it wrong is like, okay, what did you say? But this person said Jason, the name Jason. Don't go Jason Waterfalls. That don't make no sense, guys. Another one said, break my knees so I can't move because you're a bugaboo, a bugaboo. And they don't say break my knees. I don't know what they say.
I don't know what they say either, but it's not
a huge Destiny's Child fan. But
in my head, when I was little, I think I used to sing that too. And so that sounds like it makes sense, but I actually don't know what the actual lyrics are.
That's the worst too with lyrics, when you like, the ones you made up, they make sense. Like Jason Waterfalls don't make sense. But when they make sense, then you really just think you have it right.
And then someone actually said, Mama say, Mama sa, Mama kusa. But those actually are the lyrics. I looked them up just to double check. But they said that it's a Cameroonian language of Douala. In that language, Makossa translates to dance, but the actual like words and the way they were strung together is an artistic representation, so it does not have a direct translation.
But it's not Mama say like Mama said. Like, that's what we thought they were saying. Mama say, Mama saw.
M-A-M-A-S-E.
But it's MJ, so like he could say whatever he was trying.
Absolutely
like we didn't even think he was making sense, so whatever.
Yeah, so whatever.
And then lastly, this person
My
said,
cousin.
honestly, I'm kind of a stickler for knowing proper lyrics, so I can't really say if I didn't know the part, I just get quiet for a bit, which is fair. And that's the thing. This person is saying, like, if I'm not sure, but sometimes like we said, you hear it and it's like, that's what they saying, but you're wrong. So you don't really realize, cause I do that too. If I know I don't really know the words, then I'm gonna look it up. And all of a sudden everything clicks and makes sense. But yeah.
But when we were little and we didn't have Google, and all you had were if you bought the CD and you actually had the actual one.
Yeah,
but we had a bunch of like burned CDs and stuff too, and tapes and stuff. So there's sometimes there weren't ways to find lyrics.
Yeah, just listening to the radio.
I knew I was saying stuff super wrong. So as an adult, I have since went back and laughed at a lot of the things that I was getting incorrect.
That booklet and the CDs made the whole thing worth buying, for real.
And you go through and
because you knew like this is what they said. So like you already know, and you can study it. You can. Yeah, man, those were the days.
The lost art.
Those were the days. All right, let's talk about nice guys and nice girls. Look, my hands is about to get serious.
Every time, that's what you do every time.
It's about to get serious.
Her next cartoon on a cup is about to look like that.
And you know what's funny is that somebody told me, they were like, one time I was doing something with Tyler Perry, and like while we were all reading not the lyrics, like scripts and stuff, we were looking at him, and he was just sitting there like this. He's like, the whole time, like for hours. Like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but like that's how you process stuff. So anyway, this is the Let's Get Serious hands. What is it about these nice guys or nice girls and them always ending up actually being a terrible person? And like, y'all know what I'm kind of talking about, right? Like, even the people online or we'll use Twitter, for example, like they're always like defending people, or they're real extra. But then something always comes out and like, damn, now she was beating your mom up, or like something happened, or you robbed a bank, or killed somebody, whatever, right? It's always something. And it's like, actually, you're a terrible person. And it's like, you are just fronting so hard. It's like every time. What's up with that?
I don't know, but I have seen many in my day. So both online and in person. Like, I feel like it's odd to have such an obsession with how people view you and always wanting to be the nice guy or feeling like you have to be the nice guy in every situation. Like, I don't know, it feels like real angsty a little bit to me. And then it just kind of like gives an air of like there's ulterior motives here. Like, there's a reason. Like, I feel like you're trying to get something from me, or like you trying to, I don't know, it just feels icky a little bit. Like, if you're so obsessed with coming across as nice. I'm not talking about actually nice people. I'm talking about people obsessed with like being the nice person always.
Mm-hmm. And you said it seems like there's always ulterior motives. And to add on to that, it's like those people who are extra nice, and every time I say like nice, that means on the video I'm like doing air quotes. Those people who are extra nice, they really, it's like you could tell they really just have expectations. Like, they really are doing it for a reason, or they have certain expectations that they want to get something out of it, or, you know, they're expecting something to happen, or, you know, they want all the praise or whatever. And they always kind of seem entitled. I think that's the thing about it. It's like, okay, you're being a very nice person, and then it very much changes really quickly if expectations aren't met, to now it's like you're very entitled. Like, you're thinking you expect, well, you do expect all of this, and you're thinking like, oh, now I'm an evil person for not doing something, when it's like, okay, you're just expecting way too much.
Man, and that's how quickly it can change too. Is like the moment that they don't get whatever they thought they were entitled to for being a nice person. I think what also is interesting about it is there's always this value of perception and how they are perceived exteriorly and by people on the outside and by the community, as opposed to like reality, like how they are behind closed doors. And to me, that seems like a lot of like virtue signaling. Like, you just want to look a certain way. Yeah. But you don't actually care about being a good person on the back end.
Because that's the thing. Like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with wanting to appear nice. There's nothing wrong with being nice in public and all of that, right? Or, you know, maybe turning it on a little bit, because yes, we do know that online or in person, where there's all these eyes on you, it does make sense to come across a certain way, right? The problem is that second part that you said, that now behind closed doors, it's like you on Twitter talking about how much you should respect your wife and blah, 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 blah. And then behind closed doors, it's like you treating that person crazy, or it's just not connecting with who you really, really are. And so a lot of these people will care more about strangers, or care more about these other people who they don't even really know. And it's like, well, you care more about other people than you do the people in your life, or your real relationships. That's what it seems like with people who are the nice guy. And really what we find, and I'm gonna have a plot twist for you in a minute, really what we find is that a lot of these nice people really are actually just controlling. They're using this as a behavior, as a means to an end. So when we talked about expectations, entitlement, or whatever, they're acting a certain way because they want a certain thing. They are trying to control your actions and how you are with them by the way that they are acting.
Yeah. And so, go ahead.
Huge plot twist. This is me. I ain't gonna hold you. When Carlie was talking shit earlier about like, yeah, they be doing this and this, I was like, actually, that is me. I have been, I don't want to say am, but I am. I find a lot of times, but I am not the person who's like thinks I need to be extra nice for everybody. I'm not that person, real obviously. But with relationships, I was thinking of is it friends and everybody? Not really. Maybe more so like romantic relationships. When I do feel entitled to certain behavior and certain things. I very much do things, maybe not as directly to be like, I'm doing this and I want you to do that, but I'm doing things and I want you to realize that's what I want. Or I'm doing things and I want you to feel like, wow, she treats me so well. So, you know, what should I be doing? Like, I am trying to control how you act. Yeah. I don't know how specific it would be right this second, but
could be a theoretical example.
if I take you on a trip or like, I don't know, I will do very nice things. I also like doing it, right? I like doing things for people. I like being kind to them. Oh, sometimes I will very much hype you up. Like, wow, you're, reminding them who they are and like, having good conversations. I want to be a person that they feel like is adding value to them.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, I want them to do that. Like, I'm doing the things that I want them to do. And a lot of times I do that with people who are not doing those things. So, like, for example, people who already treat me well or nice, I'm not necessarily going out of my way to do nice things for them. That's kind of the difference. And that's how I know it's like, it's kind of controlling because you are a great friend. I'm not buying you no tickets to go like on trips. I'm not trying to be extra with you. But I may be extra with somebody who's not quite doing the right thing because I'm trying to control them into the direction of doing certain things. And all this to say, like, as one of these type of people, I'm not necessarily like evil, right? So, we talked about, these Mr. Nice guys and Mr. Nice girls are terrible people. Yeah, I'm a little terrible, but it's not like terrible, evil, terrible. It's terrible in that, dang, I really just have different expectations and I definitely want to control. I want you to be like this.
Yeah, and I think the expectations, right, is like, I'm doing this not just to be nice. Like, yes, I enjoy it. Yes, it is nice. I'm doing it because I care. And also, I want you to respond a certain way and to reciprocate in a certain way and to do this.
Yes, and it's manipulative. And so I can be very manipulative in that way. I can be very manipulative in a lot of ways because I know if I want a thing, I'm going to think about what can I do to make that happen. But yes, that's terrible. What about you? Do you feel like you use being nice or nice behavior in that way?
Yes and no. And so I'll clarify both. So one, I'll give a story. When I first met Stacy, and shout out to one of my closest friends in business school, her and this other girl, shout out to her too. They're both great. But they thought that I was fake nice because of just who I am as a person. And so they said that when they first met me,
too much sometimes.
Well, yeah, but because they're also not used to genuinely kind people. Mm-hmm. And so that's not my fault that y'all aren't used to that. And so what they realize is, and I'm not changing who I am. Like, y'all can like me or not, but I'm just a kind person. And so then they realize like, oh no, this is really just who she is. Mm-hmm. And now I'm one of their favorite people in the entire world.
But you know what that also means too, because I can identify with what they're saying, right? Like I was running, I did 5 miles the other day and there was one black girl that passed us and she said, "Oh, hello, black people." And immediately I was like, hey. And then I was like, yeah, I don't like her. Like, and in my head, it's because like, all you had to do was like, hey, not like, we know ain't no other black people on this track. But also like, you had to say it. You was a little too extra. I feel like I could tell you're a certain type of person. I'm like, that's going to make me uncomfortable. But to your point, what I was really about to say is what that says is that shows me that I'm fake when I'm like that. Like, so, cause I understand what they're saying. Like when you're always like, hey, and blah, blah, that is good. That's great. And I know if I'm around anybody and I'm like, hey girl, like real extra, oh my God, blah, 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 that's a lot of effort for me.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing that, sometimes I'm actually clear headed and you feel good, but you ain't never seen me be like, like real extra. And it's just because I know when I'm being nice to people, that ain't really me being like, that's not me. And so it feels like when I see that, it's just reminding me like, oh, she being phony, because for me, that would be phony.
Yeah. And also like everybody's life experiences. So it seems as if a lot of people have dealt with fake nice people who are only being nice because they either feel like it, they want to get something from you, all of that. So like I said, I'm not downing their experience, but they did tell me that like, yo, when we first met you, we were like, yo, what is going on?
You feel like you're somebody to watch out for because they are thinking you're the type of person we're talking about. Like, oh, she trying to be one of the Mr. Nice girls where it's like, not Mr. Nice girl, where it's like, oh, she being extra, and it's like, you don't gotta do all that. But some people are just actually happy or actually extra, and and that's who they are.
And what's funny is like there's a spectrum, right? So I would probably say a little bit more towards the side versus the not. But then I have a friend who's even more extra than me, and when I first met her, I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
So but then I realized, and I was like, oh, that's just how she is. Like, oh, it's cool. So I think there's a spectrum. But then to the question of if I am intentionally nice to be manipulative or controlling, yes, sometimes I have been, for sure, absolutely, to get, like knowing that I would get a better response out of a certain thing. Or I also think that sometimes it's not malicious and it can be a trauma response, because if you grew up around chaos or you grew up around people exploding or you've been in an abusive relationship, whatever the things are, like you start to be the nice person to try to like keep everybody calm. And you know that if you are really nice and soft and walk on eggshells, or you do certain things, like that type of behavior is to just control the environment and to try to keep the peace. And so I don't think it's always malicious. But I do think that we need to be honest with ourselves and how we're showing up in spaces. Like, even if it is something like that, I think you really need to sit with yourself and kind of practice not doing that, because you shouldn't be in spaces where you have to.
Yeah. Sometimes our niceness might not be all the way genuine. And to your point, it's to also just to be kind and, you know, keep things even. And then there's times, like with my examples, where you do know you have an expectation. And I think the expectation is what makes a difference in, oh, you're a Mr. Nice guy, Mr. Nice girl. Because in your case, it's like, oh, I'm being nice because, you know, let me not start nothing around here. But if I want something in return and I'm really doing it with a motive that is serving for me and not just keeping like the peace or whatever, then that makes a big difference. So let's talk about what's wrong with that. Like, you know, what's wrong with being nice? And again, we're talking about them people who are always be like, man, that's nice guys, always finish last. And it's like, that's the problem. You think you're supposed to be getting something, and like you're telling on yourself and you don't realize it. So what's wrong with being the nice person? Like, what's wrong with being nice?
So I don't think that there's anything wrong with being the nice person. We had an episode that we did that was episode 119, being nice versus being kind. Go listen to that, because I think we made great differentiation. And so
119.
Episode 119. I would say that being kind is genuine. Like, that's just who you are. You just, you know, are spreading sunshine or love or just being a good person, all that. Being nice is like fake nice. It's not necessarily all the way genuine. It's niceties, it's expectation, it's doing what you have to. You might not really feel like that. It can also look like you being the nice girl in a relationship and like, you know, or a situationship and like, oh, I'm cool if you date other girls. Like, yeah, that's cool. You're just trying to be palatable to kind of get what you want, but you're not really that, and you're not showing who you are. So I think that is the issue and the difference. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being kind. I think that more people should try to actually be kind. And I think that could help make the world a little bit better of a place. But like all of the fakeness and the mask and stuff that come with being nice, I think that is the issue.
Yeah. You can be nice, but when you're really just being dishonest with the people around you, or even dishonest with yourselves. Because again, even with my behavior, sometimes I didn't realize until like later. I'm like, oh, actually, like, why am I so disappointed about whatever? And like, oh, actually, because I'm expecting this, or because I wanted something. And you don't really realize it. I think it's something that becomes a part of how we act, as opposed to something we're really doing, like very consciously or intentionally, for sure. And then I find myself, I end up kind of acting up or acting out when the person's not doing a thing. And I'm like, dang, my house is always clean when you come over. Why is all this stuff on the floor when I come over here? And it's like, that's how that person is. You can have a problem with things and make your decisions to say something about it, which I'll do that. And then they can listen and be like, yeah, you're right. You know, oh, I didn't realize that the way I keep my house is something that you're correlating with, you know, my respect for you or how I feel. Like, so you should be able to have those conversations instead of finding yourself doing things you might not normally do, and or going above and beyond to try to hope they feel like or do something. Like, it's just so much. It's so many mental gymnastics. And quite honestly, it's exhausting for you to be that nice person. And anytime we find ourselves not being authentic to what we really actually want and what we need, we are exhausting ourselves. Like, you're probably one of those people who's like, I'm always tired, or, you know, feel drained and all of those things. It's really something that, to let people be who they are, oh my gosh, such a big weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, because it's not your responsibility. And also, I think that by not wearing that nice mask and doing all those things, it gives other people space to really show up how they are, because whenever you have on a mask, then they probably do too, or they don't know, they're reacting to whatever you're showing them. So by taking that off and actually saying, I'm not cool with you dating other people. I really just want to be in a monogamous relationship. And if that's not you, that's fine. But that's what I want. And like owning your things, then you create space in your life for what it is that you're really looking for.
But for them guys, for all of y'all who be like, can I pay your rent? Or they just send people cash apps or just send you money. And it's like, I don't know what you expected. Let me cash out real quick, but I don't know what you expected. But ain't nothing else happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you see them get weird or get, and it's like, exactly.
That's why you was ugly anyway. Like,
right.
All right, bro.
And
cool.
that's why I still got $500. So anyway, so how can we check ourselves, right? Because again, it's easy to identify this in other people, but how do we check ourselves to make sure and see that we're actually being good people? Like, are we really being controlling and manipulative, or are we genuine?
I think the first place is to check in with your why. Like, why am I doing this thing? Or why do I keep doing this thing? Like, what is my intention in doing this and going the extra mile and booking this trip and doing all these things? Like, what's my intention? And then you're like, oh, I just, want to have a good weekend. We haven't had a lot of time together. This, like, okay, cool. But if it's like, man, he ain't been acting right and I'm trying to get him to do this and do this, it's like, oh,
Or even on a more chill level, I want him to like me. Like, a lot of times it's just that simple. Like, I want him to like me, so I'm going to do this and
the
that.
extra.
And I don't know how wrong that is but it's for simple things, right? I respect you because not even because that's the thing. Yeah, if there's any because I want, then it's not really genuine. So if you hope a person likes you, but I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to treat you kind because that's how I want to treat you, not because I want you to like me back. But when you are doing things like, oh, I hope he will like me, I want him to just think of me, and all of that, like, that's a big thing that you can check is like, what are your, like she said, what is your why for doing the things? But also, your why is probably not in the right place when you find yourself often upset. If you find yourself being like, dang, I did all this and that for him, or oh, I sent this girl money to get her nails done and she ain't even sent me
She
no
gave me a
back.
thumbs up on the thing.
Yeah, like, when you find yourself being upset that something didn't happen, even and maybe, I don't know how wrong this is, I'll even be upset if like I did something and they didn't respond grateful enough, or like or like they didn't really say thank you. But that's understandably kind of like, dang. But if that matters so much, then I shouldn't have got them the thing, right? Like, I could have just gave you a piece of gum. I didn't have to spend $2,000 on a jacket. Like, you did too much. And you did too much because you were hoping that they would be like, wow. And like, and that's what I like. I like being like, wow, oh my God, you shouldn't have. And like, but at the end of the day, you always realize like, oh, I wasted my dollars and I wasted my time.
And so I think that's another.
And then nobody asked for none of that.
So looking at where you feel disappointed and where you might be overextending yourself. Like, if you know you don't have that money, why are you spending it on that thing? And then you mad at yourself. Like, you're putting yourself in a place to not only resent that person, but more importantly, resent yourself. So anywhere that you feel constant disappointment, or like you feel let down every time, and it could be with the same person, like a friend, like, oh, I really want this friend to think I'm cool, be the best friend or whatever. And you're always doing stuff for them. Like, look at those areas. And I would also challenge you to look at where in your life you're not able to be vulnerable or share your real feelings about a thing. Like, if somebody's doing something that, like, continuously in a relationship, in a friendship, whatever, that upsets you, you should be able to voice that and talk to them. And anywhere you feel like you can't, you're trying to be too nice or too kind or trying to keep the peace too much, because that matters. Like, people should care in the dynamics and reciprocity and how they make you feel with things. And so anywhere where you can't voice your opinion or you feel like you have to hide your real feelings.
So those are some ways to kind of look at yourself and identify, like, oh, am I actually one of those people too? Again, I'm very controlling. I want a person to be a certain way, but the thing is, we have to find people who are that person, and that's one thing I've recognized is like, you know what? As soon as I'm like, oh, they're not really doing this and that, like, make a change, because that person is that person. So now, on the other side, how can we weed out fake nice people or not fall for the trap of fake nice people? Because again, it might seem attractive, like, oh, this person's, giving me gifts, or they're doing these nice things, or they're always picking me up. And, how can we tell if it's real or if they are just having these expectations?
Man, and this is a tough one, because I feel like it's sometimes easy for people to wear masks whenever you don't hang out with them that much, whenever you don't talk that much, whenever there's, like, sparingly, it's easy for people to have masks. But I would say if you examine their actions and how they speak and who they are over an extended period of time, like, and not just with you, but with other people too. Like, if they're always kind to you, but they treat every, service worker in the world like shit, they're probably not a good person. Like, and kind of just looking at those things. So examining kind of the macro level of who they are and their micro actions with you.
And off of one part that you said is that, it's hard because people can have masks when you don't see them that often, talk to them that often. So communicate with them more. Like, as you're communicating with a person more, you will see what they're having an issue with. And if those things are issues with like who you are and how you are, then they might be having a different level of expectation or wanting something from you. You definitely know when people are like, anytime they say like, well, I did, or I'm doing, and you're not, then that's a sign of, this unclear that you have expectations, or you must be doing stuff because you're hoping I do something else. So take your relationships slow. Like she said, pay attention to who people are. Like, take your relationship slow. And we're talking about friendships, romantic, whatever. And paying attention, like, communicate with them enough, like, have those conversations enough before you start doing too much with/for them, so that you can see like if they're that type of person in their communication.
Yep. And I think over time, as you get closer to people, starting to compare how people present publicly versus who they are behind closed doors. Because a lot of times there's a big gap. And if you start to notice like, they really act like they're this person outside, but then they're terrible behind closed, it's time to leave that relationship. Yeah.
And it might not even be super stark, because I can see that in myself as well. Not to the point of like, like super, super nice and then like beating you up in the background. But I would say it like, I will give people more grace, like a stranger or something. Like, I'll give them more grace, or I'll be like, oh, wow, like, compliment them, where you might not really be doing that as much with your own people or people who are close to you. So there's always space for that. And also, like you said, just paying attention to what they say their values are, or how they show their values, and if they don't actually line up with their actions in different areas. And I think that's very important. You have to see people in different spaces. Sometimes you got to see people going through different things. Yep. Like, it's one thing I see somebody while they have the job, but I might have seen them when they lost their job and how are they acting then, or seeing when something's happening with their health or something happening with their family. All of those things are part of the process of getting to know people. And so again, like, making sure, the thing about like the rushing and the going fast, and this might be for you being that fake Mr. Nice person, but like at the beginning of any relationship or getting to know people, like Carlie said, yes, you're wearing a certain mask, or you're trying to, you want to be nice or whatever, but that just doesn't serve you, because you really just kind of end up wasting time if you're not just straight up being your authentic self. And if they're not being their authentic self, because now it's like we got to go through a lot of phony stuff to finally get to that real. And your time is just too valuable for that. So don't waste it.
Yeah, don't waste your time. And also, I would say another way to weed out people, like fake nice people in your life, is to disappoint them. Not intentionally, but if you like say no, finally.
Being disappointed.
But if you say no,
like, whoa.
like to something, no, that's real. I don't like being disappointed either. But like, if you're always doing stuff for people and finally you're like, actually, I can't today. Notice how they react to the no's. Notice how they react to like you having something real happening in your life, or them like you disappointing them. Like, I think that's kind of what sets people off. It's like, all those guys who are always like, hey, queen, da 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 da. And the moment you like are like, actually, I'm good, then they start calling you out your name and talking to you
so
crazy.
Anyway.
Exactly. Like, all right, like, bro, that's why you talk to me. Cool. All right. But the moment, that you're there, that you're not perfect, or that something happens, I think that's a great way to tell the difference between people who are, there for you and people who are there trying to get things from you.
And I find in relationships, I'm often disappointed. Like, I feel so disappointed all the time. I always expect so much. And so much is not even like for crazy. You to fly to the moon. Yeah, it don't be crazy. And I think the thing is, we're just different people. And like, that's okay. Or like, you move differently and I move a certain way, or certain things matter to me, like details of certain things and all that. And so I get to the point, and I've been in relationships where the person's a great person, but then we realize like, yeah, I'm just always disappointed. I'm really expecting so many different things, and they feel bad because it's like, dang, you're always criticizing. If I feel judged it all the time, or I feel like I'm always letting you down or whatever. And in my head, I'm like, you are actually. And so but also one thing I'm really good at though, I'm really, really good at in relationships and with my friends being able to say like, you know, I feel this way. And also I can step out to see that there's not a problem. It's good that you're able to watch TV all day. I'm judging you because I'm like, like you watch TV all day. Like, don't you have some work to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like that. If you're able to pay all your bills and you can watch TV all day, wow, that's awesome for you. But now that's what I'm saying. Like we just not gonna click the right way. We're not compatible in a certain way. But I definitely find that all the time. Like I just feel so disappointed all the time. And that's a terrible feeling. And so ending certain relationships immediately, like sometimes I felt like, wow, I feel so much better. Nothing's changed, but now I don't have any expectations. So it doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't care, you know, if you're not calling me every day, because we're not supposed to be in a relationship where I feel like that's what I like. That's what I want, is a certain type of communication. And so sometimes it's just admitting like, this isn't compatible. And if you're being a fake Mr. Nice guy or fake Mr. Nice girl, you keep trying and keep pushing it and keep pushing things farther than you need to push them, instead of respecting yourself and just letting that thing go. If you actually really care about the person, there are some people who are like more on the evil scale of this who, you know, will do that for years. And I see people in relationships for long times. I'm like, y'all are clearly like miserable and have been from a long time, like years and years and years and years and years. And you got to be able to stop and recognize like when things aren't working well. So I think that's very important. Like be authentic about how you feel about people. Be straight up about what you want and what you expect. And that way it's like, well, if they're not doing those things, you don't have to try to control them. But telling them might give them a chance. If they want to try to do those things, they may try. And you'd be surprised at that you don't have to be extra. You don't have to spend extra money you don't have. You don't have to wake up thinking about how can I make them smile today. And like all of that stuff should just be the natural things and flow. And a lot of times when we're trying to be that Mr. Nice guy, Mr. Nice girl, we're just trying to do too much too fast. And it's like, you don't got to do all that. Just live life and chill and be respectful and nice to each other. And you're just giving yourself so much weight on your shoulders.
That's an unexpected benefit of like being more authentic, is that you don't end up wasting time and spending time in places where you're not supposed to be, because you actually are being bold enough to own your wants and needs and communicate them very authentically with other people, and are willing to leave situations whenever what you desire is not being served.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of unfortunate that you often see like older people where it's easier for them to be like, you know, say what they want to say, or like, I don't want that. And I like that about, you know, the more you do it, and we don't do it because we're scared. At the end of the day, you're trying to control a person or whatever because you're scared. You want to feel like, or your ego too. You want to feel like, oh, I should be getting this and da. Cool. But also like recognizing and like moving on. Like losing things is always the best thing to like keep it moving, because it always just keeps getting better and you're getting closer to what you actually want. Like success is not in the longevity of staying with somebody. Success is not in the longevity of any relationships at all. It's about like you actually feeling good in it. So if you have to manipulate and you have to control and you have to do all these things, that's so much extra work and you're not happy. So make a change.
Come on, Pastor Lex. Shutting down the episode with some gems.
Cash App Alexia Quincy. You ain't getting nothing out of it, but go ahead and send it.
Go ahead and send it.
Yeah, but even for myself, like as one of these people, sometimes I recognize when I'm thinking too hard, like, oh, maybe they'll like this or that. Like, and it's cool to do stuff for people. And also like, you don't have to do things you can't really do. Like that's the problem. I'd be like, you know what? I really actually can't afford it. Just because I got this check last week and I'm thinking like, let's do a trip, Also, you know, as our last conversation was about putting that long-term gratification ahead. When I'm more focused on that too, now I realize, oh, actually my budget doesn't allow for me to do X, Y, Z. Like even it might for real, like right in this moment, but really, really for the goals I really have, like it don't make sense for me to be taking you on trips and doing this and trying to hope you like this and that. And I don't have 3 months of savings on the side. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, well, what do I really need to be doing? And I think sometimes when we're reckless with ourselves in that way, we'll be mad when other people aren't. Like they're actually putting themselves first, or they're actually paying attention. Because that's what happened. Like this person got more money than me. So I'm always like, well, how am I doing all this? But I ain't getting no this or that or that. And it's like, oh, they actually are
Putting
long
themselves
term.
first.
They're actually paying attention to themselves. So again, it's not even about that person being necessarily a bad person or any of that. Like, they're great. They just actually, we're just not compatible in that way. And I actually have something I can learn from them. So again, like, look at yourself, look at how you expect people to react, or what you expect back from people, and be able to pay attention when you see that from other people as well, because it's important for us to identify when we really are controlling, and then we need to reel that back and make sure we're actually on top of it with ourselves and our own lives and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and if you're a nice and kind person, be that, and make sure you're not overextending yourself, because nobody is asking you for that. You are doing that on your own accord, and you can only be mad at yourself. And check yourself. And I've had to catch myself on that, because I used to be a big overextender. Like, oh, here's this, and then be like, damn, I ain't got nothing. I don't do that no more. But I can still love on people and be super kind and be who I am, and that's okay. So it's not saying you can't be a nice person. Just check in with yourself first.
And it's so good to receive when you're not doing the most, and for you to realize, like, oh, with the right person or in the right spaces, it never feels like you're trying to do too much. And it flows differently. So don't waste your time. Don't be that Mr. Nice guy. Don't be phony. Don't be online and doing all this, but on the group chat, you're a totally different person, or at home, you're a totally different person. Check yourself. Don't be terrible.
Please don't be terrible.
Don't be terrible.
And if you are terrible, then do better this week and hit us at Carlie's Couch and let us know how you're doing better.
Now she looked at me like that's my homework. I'm doing better right now. I don't care about controlling people right this second. Alrighty, time to go.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.